we'll go up and get her and bring her down, and we can cut her in front of the door there. Missy the sow is chilled down, and we're going to start cutting her this morning. We're going to take off the front shoulder first, and of course the classic cut is count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the middle right here. And that's where we're going to cut our primal off. First we got to cut this massive neck bone in the front of the rib cage out. Here's a neck bone in the front of the ribs. Hillary's going to trim that out, get all the meat off it, and we'll grind it. And this is more grind that's coming off. Hillary's going to have her work cut out for her. This is how she's going to spend her day probably. I'll cut, she'll trim. There she is. I'll take off the front hock and picnic through here. We're just going to grind it all up. But I am going to shave the shoulder hole because, as you know, I love pork shoulder or Boston butts. Hillary's going to debone that. Boy, her meat is nice and dark. I don't know if that's a function of age. And it's tender too, given that she was 4 years old. You got your work cut out for you already.
I guess I do. I got a big pile.
I'm just going to take that off. This is the top of the picnic here. It's not very marbled. It's like ham on the rear leg. And we're going to cut this up and grind it. Lots of ground pork. But this here, the pork shoulder, we're going to save whole. Now it's time for front shoulder number 2. Out of the front shoulders, we took some butt roast. We've got trimmings. Those won't get wasted. They're going to the chickens. And I'll show you how much grind we got. 1 pot, 2 pots. Where's the 3rd pot? Oh, 3 pots. There's got to be close to 50 pounds of grind there. Next, I'm going to take the belly, the spare ribs, and the chops off. And we'll make sure we don't get into the tenderloin here. Just cut the belly back. This is going to be heavy, so
it's going to fall.
Just let it drop.
Okay. I just don't know.
Oh, yeah, a little bit of bone left up here. Okay. There we go. Got it?
Yep.
Okay.
This is slippery.
Look at that bacon. Holy! That's lean bacon. Wow. Christmas ham for 40. We'll vacuum pack the butt roast.
This is sure. Okay, good.
Oh, wonderful. White BBs are falling out of the sky. See? White BBs. That's the ancient Native American term anyway. We try not to waste anything, so the trimmings that we've accumulated are going to make a fine feast for the chickens, and they will pick the bones clean. This one hen in here is going to have a heck of a feast till her friends find out. Oh. There you go, guys. There will be much beak wiping. Now we're going to do these sides, and what we're going to make out of them is I'm going to make probably a sirloin roast out of the back. Here, it's easier if I turn it over and you can see what's going on here. I'll make a sirloin roast out of this right here. That's where the sirloin starts. I'm going to cut all this into boneless chops, so we'll have rib chops up front here, boneless rib chops, boneless loin chops coming back through here. Take the tenderloin out, take the spare ribs out, and then cut the pork belly. And like I said in the last video, I really don't like cured smoked bacon, but I like to do it myself, not to cure it, but to put a rub on it, put it in the smoker, so we have uncured smoked bacon. That's what we're going to do with this massive amount of pork belly. Here's a question for those that know more than me. In a couple places on the carcass, I've seen these little beans. They're like a dark colored, and they're usually buried in fat. And I don't know what they are. So if anybody knows, put it in the comments, please. I'm going to cut one open and see if we see anything.
It's just solid through.
Yeah, I thought, well, maybe it's related to some kind of parasite, but nope.
I don't know.
They're just beans. We see these kinds of beans in chickens too.
Yeah, we do.
They're a little bit different, but they tend to be in the fat, and in chickens they're just natural. But we always call them beans. So I'm going to find the last rib, which is right here, and I'm going to cut to it. There we go. Feel for the end of the ribs. Just score that. Take the ribs out. Spare ribs. This all is pork belly. Look at the side of pork bacon though. Holy crap. That sucker is huge. She is a big pig. I'll just cut the tenderloin out. That's going to need to be cleaned up. Now we'll take the sirloin off and leave that as a roast. Remember my story of butchering when I was a kid? Well, this saw was passed down to me by the same great uncle that I talked about in the last video. And I don't think it's had a new blade since he was alive, which was a long time ago. That is a heck of a big sirloin roast. And then for this whole chunk, we're going to make this into chops. So I'm going to debone it. So I'll just work along the ribs here, cut the ribs out. And these will be baby back ribs. Since she was a 3 or 4-year-old pig, you can see some things are toughening up in here. That line of grizzle, even though I'm working with the loin here, you can see the loin and then the shell here, what I call the shell anyway. And it's a bit tougher, but look at the color difference. Wow, those are some really big loin cross sections.
That's amazing.
Well, we're going to try some of these for dinner tonight. We'll see how they are. She's as dark as store-bought beef is. Here's dinner tonight plus leftovers.
Yeah, right? I'll put them in the fridge.
Alright, for this belly, those are some frickin' long pieces of bacon right there. Wowie. Pack them up. It's the next day and we've been busy with some other things this morning, but we're going to continue cutting this afternoon. Most of our sows get fat as they get older.
Yeah, they
just
do.
like our cows do. She remained pretty lean. I know that we've sent pigs to the butcher before that have a couple inches of back fat on them. She didn't have nearly that. At most, she had an inch. She was always kind of a lean pig. Long and lean. Those chops we had last night were amazing. I have never had pork chops like that. You saw what they looked like. Well, I grilled them up and I cooked them a little bit longer because they were thicker. And as I finished eating them, I thought, this is New York strip steak. It tasted just like New York strip steak, which is beef loin. And I was eating pork loin. I guess with an older sow like this, that's what the meat becomes. It's incredible. If I closed my eyes, I'd swear I was eating a New York strip steak. Never had pork like that before. It had the same texture. It had the same flavor. A little bit tougher than a young pork chop, but certainly not even approaching tough, what I would call tough. Oh, crap.
You broke your saw!
So here's everything that came out of that pork side. All of this. We've got the chops. We've got piles of pork belly here. Here's the tenderloin. That's pork belly too. Baby back ribs. One big sirloin roast. And then spare ribs. And this is all the trim that came out of it. Just this. There's not a lot of trim in the side. We're getting all of our trim out of the hams and the front shoulders. So I'm left with just these two. And I'm going to hang these up because we're not going to be grinding for a few days until our sleeves come to pack the meat in. And of course I'm using fencing wire because I got lots of that. This of course is the USDA approved variety of fencing wire. I hung the hams because if they're sitting on a surface, you'll get a concentration of moisture, and we don't want that. We want them to dry evenly. And with that, the pig's broken down. Everything's in the freezers except for the hams and the trimmings that we have to grind up. Hillary and I are obviously amateurs at it. Probably could have been done a lot faster, but you know what? It'll still be delicious. We had about 8 hours in the work, and we'll probably have another 8 hours in grinding and seasoning sausage and packing ground pork and packing sausage casing. So a couple days work, not including the slaughter. I'll show you the grinding and the sausage making when we get to it, probably next week. Until then, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.